Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I have my fantastic host right here,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome to 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan. We're so glad that you chose to join us today. What's up, Mr. Cruz? What's going on today? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I think we're going to take a moment to rewind time a bit.
Oh.
First, let us take a moment and let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. All right, so I think that we spent just a few moments on a very valuable topic that I feel this entire episode we should dedicate much more time to. And that is the topic of promoters.
Okay.
I went ahead and I called a couple of people and perused on social media to gauge some views about promotions, but I think it's important to go back in time a little bit. From what I'm understanding from our research and from personal recollection, that in the late 80s, we're only going back as far as the late 80s, the promoter was a very involved kind of role. If you can remember, and I know I had to think about this too, the promoter to me was a person who secured the venue sometimes. We're talking about promoters that looked after DJ centered events or something like that. You see, here at the Freedom Radio Hour, we love our house music, but we love it a little bit slower in tempo, perhaps a little bit more soulful in meaning, perhaps more vocals. So these things tend to work in communities where that is working very well, very friendly towards this kind of genre, if you will. Anyway, what we're trying to do is figure out what do we do to get more people to attend events. So if we go back in time, promoters had their hands in a lot of different things. They often secured the venue. They either designed the flyer themselves or booked somebody to hire to do the flyer, got it printed, had a street team that would go out to, say, the neighborhood local businesses, would go out to hair salons, barbershop, any sort of the hit places in the area, certainly nightclubs that played that kind of music or had featured that DJ or DJs like him or her. So there was a very involved sort of set of things that went in motion. And oftentimes back then at least, the promoter wasn't just looking after, say, one night, but was looking after several nights at a venue, at a club or whatever. So they had a system that works for the different audiences that come to patronize the club on the different nights. And also, we talked last time, but let's bring this up again, which is that some of the more advanced promoters would go ahead and secure advertising time on the radio, for example, or they would do a myriad of things to get people to their event. Now, when we fast forward time and we're at 2016, what we're trying to figure out is when we're dealing with house music and this kind of counterculture, if you will, how do we continue to get people out to the clubs? Now, we talked very astutely about that. Eddie, what do you think? If you think about the promoters of today, where their methods, are working because the people are coming, what would you think were some of the tools that they're using to bring the people out to their function?
Well, first and foremost, those people that have those big entities, they have already established a fan base. So their fan base is in anticipation of whatever they're going to do, whether it be one of those huge festivals as the Winter Music Conference or Ultra or one of those things. Those are promoted to the hilt. But I will say recently, especially with social media, I do see a lot of promoters using social media as far as with the videos.
Yes.
Of course, the flyers.
Right.
Again, tagging into a fan base and tagging into one another.
Well, I think that's a good segue into one of the biggest items that we noticed. When you say build a fan base, to me, that's not unlike curating a relationship over time. These are the people that are not just coming out of nowhere, that are doing these things and all of a sudden, boom, the people are coming out. No, these are relationships that by and large have been curated and been nurtured over time. And when I talked to different entities about this, I got the same kind of feeling, which was back then you had the sense that the promoter was involved with other functions insofar as you knew that he or she was going to not only build their own network of parties, but they were also supporting other events.
And
that they did that to help their business. So they knew that if everybody was going out to the different events and being involved, you were seen, you were heard, and you could continue your business, which is nightlife.
And it also allowed one to be able to come, because at one time it's very taboo for you to go to another club and pass out.
Okay, so let's talk about, because this is part of the building that was promotions back then. What was some of the taboo things that you're talking about?
You were not coming into another person's party passing out your flyers, especially if you were given a function on the same day as theirs. You had to have...
What if you didn't know? You need to find out.
You need to find out.
Okay.
Also, common courtesy, if you did come in and you were doing a function, it was common courtesy to ask the club, can you leave some on the table?
And let them decide.
At one time, it was considered tacky, but individuals did it when you were giving a party. People would come and put flyers all on your cars at somebody else's party.
Wow, okay.
But that...
Okay, so why was that considered tacky? I'm interested to know.
Well, especially if it was a function that you yourself don't attend.
Right. And also there's ought to be better ways to promote than to stick it on somebody's windshield. Right?
Exactly. If it was a party that you also supported, the person giving that party would have no problem with you coming into their party and sharing your flyers and your information. It's courtesy.
Yes, but I think this goes back to the main point, which is the value of curating that good relationship, nurturing those friendships over time.
And again, when you look at with social media, it's about your interaction with people. When you post stuff, especially if it's something that you're involved with or others are involved with, you need to see what people are interacting, whether they press a like, whether they make a comment. How do you respond back? All of those things. How do you respond when people criticize something that you do?
Right. Well, I think that's a great segue into our next point of that we'd like to discuss, which is use of social media in today's day and age and how it relates to promotions and promoters. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to break this down and more music business news right here on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM, y'all.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. I'm Eddie Nicholas, and we're so glad that you came back to join us here on freedomradiohour.com. I'm here with my good co-host, the one and only Mr.
Adam Cruz, and we're live and direct on Capital Radio 91.6 FM and on the web at dwildmusicradio.com. Before we broke, we were talking about the art of promotions.
Yes.
You see, back then, the role of promoter was very multi-layered. There was a lot of different agendas, a lot of different things that you'd be into if you were a promoter back then. We're talking about late 80s into the 90s. But now in the age of social media, there are some pieces of etiquette, ways in which to behave online. We've talked about this before, but Eddie was breaking down some really valuable points. The idea is, just like back then, the personal touch was very important, that curating of the relationship online. How do you do that? Well, Eddie's very astute point. Engage. That means if somebody's posting a post related to your event, if you're the promoter, or even if it's somebody else's event, you should be engaging with your people, because if you do it in a certain kind of way, you could slowly but surely be a person that could be looked upon to throw an event together or perhaps partner with, all depending on how you are perceived online. I mean, perception, we talk about this.
Perception is everything.
It really is. So if you are a person that's providing good information, is coming off positively online, that's something that you should be aware of. I think that the other problem that we were talking about, I'd like to bring up DJ and producer, legend guy. His name is Jihad Muhammad. Shout out to Jihad.
Shout out Jihad.
Yeah, we had a great conversation earlier today, and we were talking about this very topic. And today in age, he's a very popular DJ and gets booked very much locally and around the world. So he was a good person to talk to here, because what we wanted to do is figure out what his expectations are now that he's a DJ that's been booked more and more, especially locally.
Seasoned.
Yeah, very seasoned. What is his experience? And he, by and large, says today, he said back then, the expectation was the DJ had a major job, which was to curate the music and the sound for that establishment where you were booked at. So the expectation was that you had one primary function, which was the music, getting that sound correct, getting the right selections of music and songs so that you could create a vibe, an atmosphere at the establishment. That was really the totality of your job. Over time, when you became known for creating that sound, people would flock to the club to come check you out. But that didn't happen until over time. It wasn't that you were expected to go out and promote like the street teams we talked about earlier. So Jihad really astutely talked about how the job of the DJ was really one-dimensional, which was this sound, which is a very important job. But that was the only job of the DJ. Nowadays, when I asked him, I said, hey, Jihad, so what do they expect you to do nowadays when they book you? He goes, well, it's a lot of different reasons, but I'm certainly expected to post their function online if they have a flyer to let people know.
To share the information.
Yeah, that follow me, that I'm going to be in attendance or appear at a certain event. So they expect that not once, but many times. They also expect that the people that come at the venues that they don't promote will come and follow what I'm about. In other words, that I have a fan base that will follow me regardless of the venue. He said, but making a really good point. He said, I cannot stress the value of good relationships because I know, he's like, I remember there was one promoter who had such a cute spot and it was really ideal. And this person, because they were so nasty to patrons or to the regulars
working with the clientele,
whatever it was, that
workers.
It basically alienated the clientele so badly that they left and they never came back to that establishment so badly that even if others tried to do events at that cute space, there was a negative energy left over as if it wasn't going to work anyway. So in other words, you can't deny that there's a connection spiritually, emotionally to all of this. In other words, it needs to be organic in nature. You have to be able to build these things in earnest and come across very honest in how you present yourself. And you got to be cheerful, got to be willing to work with the people, and you certainly cannot alienate your clientele.
Exactly. You said it all in a nutshell. Thank you, Mr. Jihad Muhammad. The things I have been preaching forever.
Yes.
But you know, hopefully a lot of people believe in that case. And you know, and networking, as I tell everyone, networking in social media is gravely and oh so important with anything that you want to do, especially in this day and age, because everything is immediate.
Yeah.
You know, and with that immediacy, it lets people know those blasts and all of that stuff that people are constantly doing, the likes, the getting back, the creating those responses that you want, or that friendship that you want, or that reach out that you want. It's also important, especially if you're trying to either give something away, get a point across, get a message across.
Right.
People read with the flash.
Yes.
Because everything is flip up, down, flip up and down.
Yes.
What can I write? What can I post? What picture can I put up here that will stop people to at least take a second to read it?
Right. And I think the other thing that was valid that he brought up was the fact that whether you're, say, like a big known DJ or just a startup DJ, a new person, that there ought not to be this expectation that your followers is going to be what builds or what brings the people. It ought to be this collaborative effort so that it's not
everyone,
just
the networking.
It's not just his followers. It's his followers plus the club's followers
plus
the
your
promoter's
followers.
reputation working with his or her followers. It's also the surrounding area. Are there other things that are happening in the community?
And you said it right there. What is the promoter's reputation in the community that he's giving these functions?
Yes, that's
because
so important.
That will dictate whether or not the people from his community, and what I mean by his community, if you throw in a number of red affairs, if you throw in a number of white affairs,
right?
You have these people in your community,
yes,
as you call it, your dance community, that you know when you give a function, they're going to come regardless of who you have as the DJ. But the DJ is just an added feature, and then when you have enough money to do the extra, you add a show.
Yes, and I also want to add something else. And nowadays, a lot of the functions that you see maybe a Jihad would get booked at, since we are talking about him, will often feature an artist's live performance. And we didn't discuss this, Jihad and I, but I want to interject this argument anyway, which is I think that it behooves the person who's getting booked to at least be made aware of the artist that's performing. Certainly they'll see it on the flyer, but also to encourage them to play their music if they're going to be booked. Why? Because there's
prior to the artist coming.
Yes, because there should be a tie-in. The artist is not just booked just willy-nilly. There ought to be a tie-in so that the DJ should organically be wanting to play the artist that's booked. So if Eddie's booked at a function or what have you, it should be like, oh yeah, of course I have my Eddie Nicholas catalog at the ready. I'll play this song. And so it becomes this natural thing. I know some DJs side-eye this argument because they feel like, well, I don't want you to tell me what to play. I'll play what I'm going to play. But I think it's important in the name of business, just like you want to build your DJ name and reputation, the artist being booked is interested in building his or her name as well. I want to take another break. When we come back, though, I want to ask you, Eddie. So let's say you're not booked at the event and you show up to support Jihad's event. We're just making up this pretend event here. Is Jihad obligated to play your record if you are not being booked at the event? We already talked about what his or her expectation might be if the artist is booked, but what if they're not being booked and they show up at your event in support? We did talk about the power of networking. What do you think the answer should be? We'll come back and find out.
91.6 FM.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at dwildmusicradio.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. So let's have it, Eddie. We asked him a question before we broke. The question was, we were talking about promotions and how an artist sometimes can be booked alongside a DJ at a particular event. Since we were discussing Jihad Muhammad's feelings around promotion, we were using him as a pretend event. So let's say Jihad has been booked at an event. The artist that is booked, we were talking about, it would be great if Jihad could play that artist's music, because generally there should be a pairing, some sort of reason why they're paired together, right?
Well, you know.
But the other side was, and I'll let you answer all that together. The other side was, what if you're not booked and Eddie shows up at the event in support of Jihad and the artist that was booked? Is Jihad obligated to play Eddie's material even though Eddie was not booked to perform at the event?
And you can really insert any DJ's name in there.
And that's why we just said Jihad, but we mean anybody.
You know, hypothetically, that could be any DJ. The pairing of an artist that's coming to a club and the DJ playing their music, that's great, and that should always be done, especially if that's part of your promotion. It allows those people that are looking forward, especially if it's an artist that has a new project out. It would behoove the club promoters and the DJ to pump that music prior to the artist coming, because it pumps the people up. So, oh, this is who's coming. So you look forward to it, and also you're accustomed to the music, you're accustomed to the voice, you're accustomed to say, okay, I'm familiar with that record. That's as okay. Some of my folks say, oh, that's my song.
But sounds like, again, the only opportunity you're going to have that occur is if the DJ in this instance
is playing that.
It's playing it.
And so that's where that networking and that partnership
So is
begins.
the DJ obligated to play your song? If you're walking into the club and the music is like the music that you release.
But you know what? None of them are obligated to pay anything. The courtesy thing to do, if they know that you are an artist, just to acknowledge, is to play a little bit of something that you have made. That's courtesy, because in that way it says, oh, it makes that artist think, well, oh, they're playing my music. It makes that artist say, well, let me come in and let me book.
Right.
Because your DJ, let me finish, because your DJ is playing my music. I'm interested in coming and booking your DJ at your club to do my release party.
I love that, because it sounds like you're really putting the call to action in the power of networking, which is right up our alley. I think that you're very right in saying that through this exchange where Jihad, we were talking about in a pretend event, would see you in the club, and if that he thought it worked and it played, it could help. Because who was that was playing? Oh, that was Eddie Nicholas. He's right here. Oh, maybe I'll book Eddie, or perhaps I'll buy that song.
Or Eddie may want to book that club and book you.
Right, vice versa. There's an ecosystem here where there's an exchange, an ebb and flow, a back and forth, a yin and yang of what's to occur at these events.
And that's what is not happening. That yin and yang is not happening.
Right.
Because there's too much yin and not enough yang.
Right.
And we got to put them both together.
Right.
So, hopefully with discussions like this, with us reaching out to others, because, I would like to hear what people like Jeannie Harper would have to say.
Yes.
On another end.
Definitely.
Of course, we can probably get feedback from people like Josh and all of that. But, what is it? I would love to get some feedback of how they do the promotions on BLS with Kevin Hedge or Charles Dixon or somebody like that, because that's a whole nother direction. But that's also the direction with that radio play. Again, the DJ and the artist.
Yes, I agree. I think going back to this instance, I don't think the DJ is obligated to play the artist's music if they're to come and walk into the club. If they're booked, I think oftentimes you should do your homework and have that track ready. You should have at least one ready, especially if I'm booked with Eddie, let me have my Eddie record. Why? Because in the spirit of collaboration, because you never know when Eddie could have an opportunity to say, hey, let me bring Jihad in and see if he can get a little shine. So I think, to your point, one hand washes the other. But there is a point. Jihad's point is there was never an expectation of the DJ to be obligated to do anything other than play good music.
Well, back then, I'm of that product. The DJ already spoke for themselves with the type of music they were going to be playing.
Right.
So when you went to a club, you knew you were going to be hearing such and such a DJ. You knew you were going to hear such and such a music. So the promotion was already built in.
Right.
And at the time when we were all growing up, I'm from the old school. We just ran to whatever the popular club was, and it wasn't a matter. We didn't care who played the music as long as the music was being played and we could get up, dance, shake our tambourines, and have a cocktail.
Right.
That's what we wanted to do. So the promotion, the flyers, because if you look back then, those flyers were tacky.
Yes, but they offered an ambiance, and they weren't offering DJ so-and-so and artist so-and-so.
No.
It's what we do today, but back then it was more promoting the ambiance. And Jihad even said it. Organically, we were following the DJs because we knew that one person played a different sound or style than another, but it wasn't that
we knew
through
the
the marketing. It wasn't that the promoter was, he referenced Shelton Hayes, rest in peace, but it wasn't like Shelton was going out to say, let me market the DJ like that. It happened more organically. So I think that was important, but the biggest takeaway I think we ought to think about tonight is our call to action, which is to be direct communicators.
Yes.
Your call to action tonight and today is to be a direct communicator. What do I mean? I mean, if you are going to throw a function together, if you're going to start a project, if you're going to pursue an artistic endeavor, if you're going to start writing that book, if you're going to start that book club, reading club, whatever you want to do it with purpose, do it with the understanding that you'll need to network with other members in that community, and understand that direct communication is your number one priority. Why? Because it's the best path that we've done through our research. It's the best path that we know that leads to success in an endeavor, an event. Eddie and I have been artistic collaborators for many years, and I think the success came through direct communication. As much as we could minimize our own egos in a situation for the betterment of the song, and I think just being respectful and professional at almost every interval that possible. So I think with those things in mind, the biggest takeaway on promotions now is understanding that the totality of your job, if you are a promoter, is not posting on social media and being done. You have to think about other methods. Go offline, like get that flyer printed up, hand it into, put it in someone's hand.
And that means you personally put it in their hand,
right?
Which some people do.
That's right. And also do direct outreach. So maybe you got to pick up the phone instead of a text or a blast or a Facebook post. Maybe you have to pick up the phone, make a lunch plan.
Show up at other people's events.
Yes, support other people's events and let them know. It may not be okay for you to pass out a flyer, but you might at least use your word of mouth to say, hey, I like the vibe here, but I'm also doing a function that's similar.
Why don't you come and join me at such and such a place?
Thank you. So it's all
invitations.
Yes.
Invitations.
It's that personal touch. That's the biggest takeaway. Personal touch meets direct communication. That's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. And we're live on
91.6 FM. Let me just close with this. Make your network become your net worth.
Great quote. I love it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. TWABmusicradio.com on the web. Don't forget. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, EddieNicholas.com and DJAdamCruz.com for some more of our own fantastic music. Have a great one. Peace.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan.